Welcome to the Ecom Collab Club podcast, where e-commerce founders and operators share the mistakes that drained their cash, wasted their time, and nearly broke their brains, so you could avoid that pain.
Fucking great. No one ever listens to me.
Hosted by Adam Pearce, co-founder of the Ecom Collab Club, and Blend Commerce, the Shopify CRO agency.
Well, hello guys, welcome to the Ecom Collab Club podcast. And today we are diving into a topic that's become one of the biggest competitive advantages in e-commerce, the customer journey. Now, it's quite easy to obsess over meta ads, AI tools, acquisition channels, but the brands that consistently win are often the ones that understand exactly what happens after a customer first discovers them. And a few people that have had to build and optimize a customer journey, quite like today's guest. Now, joining us today is Chris Forbes, founder of Cheeky Panda, the bamboo, tissue, and household brand that started with a simple idea after a trip through Asia, and has grown now into an international business selling in hundreds of thousands of stores in more than 30 countries. Now, the brand has gone from a starter to a multi-million-pound challenger, taking on some of the biggest incumbents in consumer goods, while building a loyal community around sustainability and everyday essentials. Now, I nearly fluffed that up, and because I'm nervous, because I'm joined today by the wonderful Jack Squire from Get Better. So say hello, Jack.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, you're doing well so far, sir. And guys, we'll be back very shortly, just after this.
I would love to help you with a free 15-minute session to talk about you and your space and help you out.
While you're building your audience, High Level is building your business behind the scenes.
I would love to help you with a free 15-minute session.
Because when your audience grows, so do the messages. While you're creating, High Level's conversation AI keeps every new lead moving. The moment a follower reaches out, conversation AI is already responding, trained to know the details of your business, with your tone and style built in. Whether it's text messages, Instagram DMs, or even WhatsApp, conversation AI learns your business, answers questions, and books appointments automatically. Let conversation AI handle the day-to-day, so you have more time to be you.
Visit gohighlevel.com/ecom collab club for an extended free trial.
Chris, great to have you back.
Great to be here.
And I'm very glad to see the hat as well. I always kind of sometimes worry that, you know, if you don't wear it, it might lose some of your power.
Oh, okay. Well, the trick is it actually hides the fact I've got no hair left anymore. So.
We just giving out your secrets there. But look, thank you so much for coming back. And I want to dive straight into it, really, because look, I'm going to level with you. When someone says, you know, you're buying a toilet roll, they're not exactly buying maybe what they would deem as a luxury product. How do you design something then in terms of a first impression of Cheeky Panda, so that customers kind of see it more than, well, it's just another roll of toilet paper that's part of my daily essentials?
I mean, we did a rebrand about just over a year ago, and I always kind of sort of thought our products looked amazing on the shelf for when they were sort of delivered, but the rebrand made it so pretty that you look at the shelf and you look at every other thing like an Andrex or a Cushelle, and they're all looking very wrapped in plastic. They're all looking very thing, but we've got this, you know, beautiful white package with beautiful green bamboo and the story on the back. So I think for us, you know, when we were taking on a new market with a new material, it was a whole storytelling. For us, it was always about the why, and you know, the why. Starting with bamboo, it's the world's fastest growing plant. So why should we be cutting down trees when we can use one of the most resourceful things we have on the planet, and the quality is amazing. So that was the message we really wanted to communicate when we got into this sector.
Mm. And so was that more it? Because I guess, look, obviously, for people that maybe have not, you know, sort of come across bamboo toilet paper before, did you lead with, or do you lead with now in terms of, is it the sustainability angle, the quality angle, or do you kind of test different messaging to see effectively which is going to resonate with different markets and different channels?
Yeah, so we're an omni-channel business, so we kind of do have slightly different channel messaging. So we supply Amazon, which is very similar to like our D2C website. We supply retail, and then we also supply sort of corporate hospitality, facilities management, and B2B. So, what people want in the sort of B2B hospitality channel is quality and cost and use. What people want in the e-commerce channel is convenience. My stuff's not going to get wet. We don't want many returns. So like low friction. And what retailers want is they want stuff that they can, sell lots of and make plenty of margin on it as well. So it's kind of like a balancing act, I suppose, in terms of like our messaging and channel messaging.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I guess that kind of leads us on quite nicely to how a lot of brands can create awareness, but changing the behavior around customers and what their sort of patterns are is a lot harder. So what part of the customer journey did you discover needed the most sort of education before people were willing to switch from much more traditional products that historically they've gone with?
I think if you'd asked me that question 4 or 5 years ago, it would probably be a different answer to where it is today. Because the story narrative was, a lot of it was driven by like Meta last sort of 4 or 5 years. And I see that, Meta has become incredibly expensive these days. And, when you're selling products that are relatively low value and bulky, you need to kind of sort of do it in a different way. So we use other people to do the storytelling now. So we're leaning quite heavily on affiliates in terms of either paid for affiliates or just kind of like affiliate marketing where they get a bit of commission on the sale. And then people are telling that in their own voice. And I find that people telling like why they love the products in their own voice is much more authentic than and trustworthy than us always kind of pushing that. This is why you should buy it because it's got these types of features.
I mean, on that note as well, sort of with obviously the business, is that there must be a point where you go through that process with a customer and they're obviously going through this relationship with you. Was there a moment, or has there been a moment in those different markets where there's been sort of, I guess, an aha moment where the customer suddenly gets it? So, is there a particular moment whereby someone goes, right, I just get this now, I understand it, and you move forward past that? And I suppose with that, is that something you think that you've maybe sort of intentionally engineered, or was it something that just sort of came naturally as obviously time's gone on, the business has grown?
I think feedback is probably the most important learning that you can get. So being able to listen to your customers and working with your customers. And, some of the best products that we've developed, sort of like the bamboo straws or like the bamboo sanitary pads, has been come by listening to like retailers or customers and saying, well, actually, you do this, but can you do that? And then we've kind of sort of looked at it and gone, actually, there's no reason why we can't do that. I think, reducing friction is probably the number one thing. And, so when you've got like a customer journey, you want to have as few steps as possible, but then you want to have the clarity of messaging at the top of the funnel so that you turn them into repeat purchasers. And what we've discovered is that we're very, very sticky. So once people have kind of got into Cheeky Panda, and they might have got into it because they like the quality of the product, or they might get into it because they like the bamboo messaging. The reason why they've stayed with it is because it's a really good quality product. So, for us, the top of the funnel is probably, you think Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Quality is number one, and people's health is number one. So if you can, what keeps really sticky is competitive pricing and, the ease of subscription as well as the sustainability bit. And I think, if you get the number one, the price and the quality right, then the other stuff all follows through. But having a few steps in the middle as well is key.
On the D2C front, I mean, what sort of rough percentage of your customers shopping through the Cheeky Panda URL, Chris, are subscribers versus kind of single purchasers?
It's 50-50. And some people just understand that they've just got a regular order of tissue, and they won't have too much tissue. The thing is they come in big boxes. Like I said, it's bulky products. So if you buy like a box of our 48s or the 24 seem to be really, really popular at the moment, it takes up cupboard space, or it takes up bathroom space. So you don't want to have 2 boxes, or you don't want to have like a stack of tissue. So and some people, like, we've got more sort of regular families, they know that. But if people travel quite a lot, and like can be working from home quite a lot or walking away quite a lot, they don't know what that frequency is. So it's not to say they're not acting like a subscriber. It's not like they're doing those repurchases. It's just they're doing it a little bit more on their sort of their terms. And we built a calculator on the website that basically sort of says, okay, well, how many people in the family, and a couple of questions, and it'll give you a sort of rough guide in terms of like what your subscription should look like.
Brilliant. I love that, because I think that's, when you sort of have conversation about subscriptions, and we actually did an ecom collab about subscriptions last week. I think that was the biggest reason why people were kind of saying, look, from a brand point of view, people are churning, because it tends to be that they've got too much product. So anything, I guess, that you can do then to sort of facilitate that within the early part of the journey, I guess it sort of stops that frustration on the line then, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the wife had a collagen brand that she was buying on D2C, and then we ended up with like 6 packs of collagen. And I'm like, well, you've now got like a year's worth of collagen. You clearly don't need that. So, and I think that's, once people stop it, it's very hard for them to come back. I think packaging is a very important part of it as well. If you want to keep that subscription, is create a bit of an unboxing experience. I mean, there's some clever stuff you can do with, doesn't really cost much money, in terms of like, making people feel like it's a bit special. So I think it's not just about the click. It's not just the final click. It's about the stages that you work through. How seamless is it in your technology? Do you notify the customer? But do you notify the customer in your own language as well? We use sort of Cheeky Panda language in all parts of our delivery journey. Bamboozled gets used quite a lot. And pandas get used quite a lot, and it's just kind of sort of warm and friendly, and I think that's kind of part of engaging people with the brand and building that sort of stickiness in your community as much as anything else.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that sounds great as well, and so it brings on quite nicely. So across those different sort of channels and meeting across those different audiences, so you've built across Amazon, D2C, and major retailers. How different are the customer journeys across those different channels, and where do most brands get it wrong, and like trying to create a consistent experience, and what are some of the best things that you guys have done and implemented?
I mean, we did our website rebuild about sort of 2 years ago, and I think our original build, there was just too many steps between the and you could sort of like, you look at the data in terms of your dropout at checkout. And I think you've also got to understand that a lot of people now have the savvy shopper has price tools built into their browser that sort of says I can buy it cheaper elsewhere. So if you're selling on your website, then the best thing to do is to have a product that's not necessarily available everywhere else, because then they're not going to leave your checkout because they found a slightly better price somewhere else. So I think we were sort of seeing quite a lot of sort of drop off at checkout stages for that reason. So I think, having slightly different products for different channels kind of works quite nicely. And you wouldn't see our packs of 9s aren't really available on Amazon anymore, because we want that to be a retail product. And it is a retail product. You don't want to pack, you're much better buying a 24 or 48 from Amazon. I think Amazon does it really well because it's like one click. Like you're one click, you're into the basket, you're out, right? You're delivered. So, and that's kind of how we like to be, is, try not to have too long forms, keep it, you need the data, but let's try and do it so that it's, if you can use Shop, for example, then it kind of autofills and stuff like that. So, all these little tools and hacks to kind of get that friction down to as little as possible, and make it feel nice as well. Make it well designed so the UX is looks good.
Yeah, so reducing friction is something that has come up quite a bit. So in terms of the other side, so once that customer has converted, that customer experience and turning that one-time purchaser into a subscriber, and across those different audiences, what are you kind of doing with the information and engaging the customer across those different channels? And is there any particular nuances in terms of how you engage them that you found? Like, is there particular with across Asia, across Europe, with those different audiences that respond better to different channels or different types of information and marketing?
Our D2C predominantly is a UK site, so we don't have lots of different sort of sites. But Amazon's kind of very much international for us, and our distributors are very much international. So It's probably more from our customer journey in terms of our direct comms comes from predominantly sort of like a UK base. But And some people are just trying something once because they want to try it to feel it, right? But then once you've kind of got people introduced to it and they like it, upsell them, build the basket, just because if somebody's using toilet tissue, guess what? They'll probably need kitchen towel. If someone's using kitchen towel in hay fever season, so we look at the seasonality of things as well. So like we're in hay fever season at the moment, our tissues don't have much dust, so we kind of push on the fact that you're not going to get as much irritation from Cheeky Panda facial tissue as what you will regular brands. And then that gets people, oh, actually, do you know what? And then that becomes a story that they can then tell their friends as well. So I think there's only so much as a brand that you can do, but what you can do is you can provide helpful prompts and sort of nudges. And, like I said, as a brand, we try to be like the consumer friend. We're very much positioned as a family brand. We're quite fun with the pandas. We've got a giant panda mascot. So if we can get people that are kind of like, there's no need for them to change then. They kind of sort of feel that you're part of their sort of day-to-day life. And, essentially tissue is something that we all use every day. So if you can kind of be that sort of, in a world where, we've got, madness in the world, like wars and, the far right kind of kicking on stuff is, you actually want positive news stories. You actually want that friend. And if brands can kind of be that nice little crutch for people, it's a good place to play and makes people feel a little bit better as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's really interesting. And I think for me, if I was then to come in and sit in your office tomorrow and ask to see what your customer journey map was, what are the key stages now? It's such an evolving market, so many new channels, like the customer need is ever developing. What are some of the things that you're obsessing over today that you perhaps wasn't on your radar just 5 years ago, and that you are looking forward to and sort of looking to implement?
Well, TikTok wasn't around 5 years ago, it was just coming in, and that's been a great place for people to sort of showcase brands. And I think that's something that we're kind of obsessing over at the moment is how can we sort of leverage that platform? And and to be perfectly honest with you, TikTok as a price point, is very good for brands. It's almost kind of where Meta was 5 years ago. So, we look at the top of the funnel, right? And it's like, there's lots of ways to get stuff through top of funnel. We still use Google AdWords, we probably start to have to use ads into some of the AI platforms because people are just asking AI, where do I get my stuff from? And AI is doing the recommendations. So, that's where part of the funnel is changing. But, as long as we can get, people into the funnel and then convert them in the funnel with a couple of steps max, then making sure we don't have a leaky bucket, right? Don't lose people for silly mistakes. And we've got quite a good tech stack, that kind of automates a lot of it. But at the back end, it's real people doing the customer service. We don't outsource that to AI. I think, you need the sort of human element about, when someone deserves a refund or like, oh, I can sympathize with this and, talking through like, alternatives that they might want a different product if they weren't happy with one product.
So no, I haven't just gone and done a quick outfit change. Which much so I'd like to, but this is an ad. Now, as many of you know, when I'm not interviewing e-commerce legends like on this very show today, I am running Blend Commerce, the CRO Shopify agency. And really over the past 10 or so years, we have been working with over 350 Shopify brands and helping them get customers to buy more, buy now, and buy again. So if you are a brand that is looking at how to make real impact on your Shopify store by increasing your revenue per session, well, we're the guys to talk to. And recently, we've just been crowned the Global CRO Agents of the Year 2026. Now, if you want to know exactly where you guys are from perspective of buy now, buy more, and buy again, all you need to do is go ahead to blendcommerce.com and click on the top right-hand corner where you will see a link to CRO benchmarks. In there, you can enter some details and we'll tell you exactly where you are and what you need to do.
So I want to now, Chris, talk about sort of thinking and reflecting, obviously, on the business as today. Have you had any moments, obviously, since you started Cheeky Panda, where you've gone, look, actually, this part of what we do is actually really killing us in terms of getting people from click to purchase. And obviously the changes you made had quite a big impact upon your growth off the back of it.
Yeah, I think your ads are probably the number one thing. And the thing is that algorithms change as well, right? So just because something worked last year or worked 2 years ago doesn't mean it's going to work today. So having different types of ads, and I think video is very, very important now, more so than it was a couple of years ago. And I think we're just becoming a little bit more sophisticated in terms of like that storytelling journey, because at the end of the day, like, you know, it's CPA for us. It's like cost per acquisition. So, you know, if we're paying 20, 30 pounds for like CPA, we're not making any profit in the first year, you know. So it's, you know, even on subscription where people are buying sort of 3-4 times, you know, the payback gets very long. So then assuming that, you know, people are going to stay with you for a couple of years, and, you know, people can undercut you, things can kind of move around, people's circumstances change. So, yeah, it's kind of like, let's try to hit different sort of groups and different areas with different types of messaging. And it's experimentation as well. So it's kind of, don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to have a little bit of fun. One of the things that we've always stayed away from is direct comparisons. I think a lot of the other people in our space have kind of leveraged it on price. Don't get me wrong, we're like price per sheet. We're pretty much this, you know, the best, if not the second best in the market, but the quality is better. But, you know, I don't think I never like selling on price. I like selling on, like, you know, quality and values first, and, you know, then people can then work out, actually, this is really good value. Then it makes them sticky.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it? It's become quite common now, particularly on D2C sites, where you have a section of the PDP or the homepage where there's a comparison with competitors in that particular space. And I think, look, a lot of that is also driven by AI, and obviously wanting then to get the LLMs to recognize you versus the competition. In terms of that sort of things, and I guess thinking about SEO in particularly, is that something you think that you will dial up over the next 12 months? Or is it something that you think, you know, actually we've really nailed this already?
I think there's a lot more performance marketing we can do, you know, and I think that, you know, I think we are going to start to look for a performance marketing individual in the team. So, I mean, if you are a performance marketing person listening to that, feel free to reach out. There's a little plug. I think it is like, you know, you can only do things at different stages. You can't have, like, you know, don't expect to have a full team, you know, where, you know, if the revenues doesn't support that. So I think, you know, we've obviously worked with agencies and sort of like freelancers to get us to this point. But as you kind of get bigger, then you can professionalize it a bit more. And, you know, it's inches and yards is what I describe it, right? So, you know, a yard is 12 inches, right? So you need to do 12 individual inches to get to the yard. And it's like, you might feel like you've made a big step, but there's only reason why you've made that big step is there's been 12 other steps that have happened. So, like, every day for me is always about, you know, testing yourself, continuous improvement, and keeping ahead of the market in terms of what's actually happening. And if you're not on top of the content in terms of like what's moving and why it's moving, you'll be wasting money, because the algorithm will change, and then you'll be throwing money into the wrong area.
And most founders nowadays dream of selling products people love talking about. You sell toilet roll, yet you've built such a loyal following. How do you create that emotional connection and repeat purchase in a category that most consumers barely think about?
Beauty is easier. So you're more likely to have people talking about our beauty wipes and like a TikTok or like an Instagram story, rather than the toilet roll. But the boxes work really well. We've got beautiful boxes. So people are happy to talk about the box, but not the actual tissue, because, you know, I don't think you'd ever get anybody telling you what a great wipe it is, because it's a little bit too personal, right? So I think you have to kind of play to your strengths and find those messages that do work with you. And in our case, I think the British people have always got quite a good toilet humor anyway. So, you know, don't be afraid to chuck a few puns out there.
And
I was going to say, sorry, Jack, after you.
So how have you done that in terms of like the packaging and that kind of things? I know you go with really sort of out packaging. How have you sort of done that and sort of lent on that British humour and things.
So I've got a pack behind me. So I mean, this one's been opened, but you can sort of see the sort of design of it, and then you'll see like there's quite a lot of sort of like fun messaging and stuff like that, and it's it's telling the why, because otherwise this is just big real estate. If I look at a pack of Andrex, they don't tell a story. There's no story to tell. But if you look at like coffee, they tell you the story. So I think if you know your story, and then I think that turning both your product packaging and your post-click delivery journey into part of your story, it helps bridge those connections.
I was going to say, Chris, with your packaging, obviously, obviously, as you know, I'm a customer of you guys. With the quality, obviously, of the paper that you surround, obviously, with the packs, particularly in the supermarkets, was that something you consciously decided to do as a point of difference from a visual point of view? Or was it more the fact that actually you wanted the people to, because obviously it's called a dense paper, isn't it, that you guys use to package? Was that to kind of give the touch and feel of the quality? What was the sort of the logic behind that?
I mean, the scary thing was, obviously moving away from plastic, which was quite sort of durable, but we always wanted to be, as a brand, we always wanted to be in paper. It's about not having returns and broken packaging. So, having a stronger paper kind of presents that. But I mean, interesting, we obsess over details. So the like on the inks, for example, they're all vegetarian inks. We're all plant-based inks. It's because we're a cruelty-free sort of B Corp brand. So we want people that are sort of vegan and stuff like that to kind of, well, why are we putting chemicals in our paper? And it makes it much nicer to recycle. So I think some things we don't actually talk about as well as what we could. But again, I think so the risk is when we did it, there could have been like a 10% return rate, and it would have killed all the profitability, right? But Blue Planet had come out, they're talking about planets. We switched in about 2019. And it was a risk because we basically stopped our biggest selling line, which was wrapped in plastic, and replaced it with paper. But 3 months later, we've doubled the turnover. So I think my CFO would probably have kittens now if we tried to make that move. And he'd probably wanted to run 2 products, but I think we were still very much in that early stage entrepreneurial state, point. And come on, this is the right thing to do. Let's just get on with it and do it, and we'll take the risk, because it's the right thing to do.
Cracking, look, really good insight, and thank you for sharing that. I mean, look, you said about the start of the entrepreneurial journey. Obviously, at this stage now, where you are a significant business. If there was a founder listening to this that maybe had got a D2C brand and was saying, look, actually, I'm scratching my head a little bit from a customer journey point of view, what 3 areas would you get them to hone in on, and why?
First is the UX on your website is probably your number one thing, because if let's just assume that you've got like a good ad and it's got them to there, or you've been referred. Let's just find that they've got to your landing page. You've got to have simple messages in terms of explaining what you are. You don't be over cluttered. Make it clean. So that would be number one. The second part is make it easy for my shoppers to shop. Right. Some people got too many categories, too many different areas. I think people's attention spans is getting shorter. So almost you need to kind of almost think about your most impatient customer and treat that as your baseline, and make sure that you're there's little friction. But then probably the third thing is the message about the why. So you've got the beautiful design, you've got the easy place, and you're going to give people that reason, because when they're getting to the checkout, then in their brain they've already made the decision that they're purchasing. If they still don't know when they're at checkout why they're purchasing it, then they're probably going to bail on you. You're going to get a lot of bailing on your basket. But I think probably the final thing is look at your data. I mean, I think Google's great for showing you where people are on your site, where your hotspots are, where people are coming in, where people are dropping off. So I think if you are an e-commerce brand at an early stage, really start to understand that, and then you know what to dial up and dial down.
Superb. Chris, look, an absolute pleasure to have you back with us again. And it's just always great chatting to you. Obviously, the biz continue goes from strength to strength. So if obviously people want to find out more about Cheeky Panda and obviously maybe try, if they've not tried before, where should they go? What should they do?
Cheekypanda.com. Nice and easy to remember. Check it out. I mean, if you do like purchasing on Amazon, or you'll find us in Tesco or Waitrose or Morrison's, in Boots as well. So we're available quite a lot of different places. Look for the Panda logo.
Superb. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you obviously also to Jack for co-hosting with me today. This has been the Ecom Club Good podcast. And if you did like what you listened to today, do give us a like or a follow on the listening platform of your choice. Cheers, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Jack.
Thanks for listening to the Ecom Collab Club podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, and join our community at ecomcollabclub.com/community.